I didn't wake up that morning planning to ruin my relationship. I didn't pack my suitcase thinking I was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I told myself it was just a trip. New York, a few days away. A reset. That's what I called it. A reset from routine, from arguments, from the quiet tension that had been sitting between Ethan and me for months. When I told him I was going with my guy best friend, Oliver, I watched his face carefully. He didn't yell. He didn't forbid me. He just paused for half a second too long and said, "Okay, if that's what you want." I took that as permission instead of what it really was, a warning. Ethan and I had been together for 4 years. He was steady, predictable, the kind of man who showed love through consistency instead of grand gestures. Somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that meant he was boring, that the butterflies I felt in the beginning were supposed to last forever, and if they didn't, something was wrong. Oliver, on the other hand, was excitement in human form. Funny, spontaneous, emotionally expressive. We'd been friends since university. He listened when I complained. He validated my feelings. He always took my side. I told myself that was harmless. I told myself Ethan was just insecure when he asked why I talked to Oliver so much. The idea for the trip came up casually. Oliver mentioned a cheap flight deal. I joked about needing a break. He said, "Come with me." I laughed. Then I didn't say no. When I brought it up to Ethan, I framed it carefully. I said I needed space. I said I wanted to clear my head. I said Oliver was like a brother to me. I didn't say the part where being around Oliver made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't say that part because saying it would have forced me to face what I was already doing. New York was loud and electric and intoxicating. From the moment we landed, everything felt heightened. The lights, the noise, the constant movement. Oliver and I walked for hours, talking about everything and nothing. We shared meals, laughed too loudly, took photos that looked intimate even if we pretended they weren't. I noticed how often he looked at me when I spoke, how easily his hand found the small of my back in crowded places. I noticed, and I didn't stop it. Instead, I told myself that Ethan trusted me. That trust made me feel powerful instead of responsible. The first night, nothing happened. We went back to the hotel late, exhausted, separate beds. I even texted Ethan before sleeping, told him the city was beautiful, told him I missed him. He replied with a heart emoji and said he hoped I was safe. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. There was a tightness in my chest I couldn't quite name. Guilt, maybe. Or the fear of losing something I had taken for granted. The second night was different. We went out for drinks. 1 turned into 3. Conversation softened. Boundaries blurred. Oliver told me he'd always wondered what would have happened if we'd met at a different time. I should have shut that down. Instead, I smiled and said timing is everything. When we got back to the hotel, the air between us felt charged. We stood there, neither of us moving away. When he kissed me, I didn't pull back. I didn't think about Ethan's quiet patience or the way he made coffee for me every morning. I thought about how alive I felt. That was the moment everything shifted. Nothing physical went further than that kiss, but it didn't matter. The line was already crossed. I slept in my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying it over and over. The next morning, I acted normal. We joked. We walked through Central Park. But something was different. I wasn't a girlfriend on a trip anymore. I was someone carrying a secret. When Ethan called that evening, I almost didn't answer. When I did, his voice sounded so familiar, so safe, that it hurt. I lied easily. That scared me more than the kiss. When I got home, Ethan picked me up from the airport. He hugged me like he always did, solid and warm. I hugged him back, feeling like a fraud. For a few days, I tried to pretend nothing had changed. But distance crept in anyway. I pulled away when he touched me. I was short with him. He noticed. Of course he did. One night, he asked me directly if something had happened. I looked him in the eye and said no. That lie was worse than the kiss. It was deliberate. It was selfish. A week later, Ethan told me he'd been thinking a lot. He said he trusted me, but he didn't trust the situation. He said he felt like he was losing me slowly, and he didn't know how to fight for someone who wasn't sure she wanted to stay. There was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion. That's when it hit me. I hadn't chosen Oliver. I hadn't even really chosen myself. I had chosen to avoid discomfort, to chase validation, to risk something real for something fleeting. We didn't break up that night, but something fundamental cracked. Trust doesn't always shatter loudly. Sometimes it erodes quietly, until one day you realize the foundation is gone. I learned something I wish I'd understood earlier. Cheating doesn't always look like sex or secrecy. Sometimes it looks like justifying choices you know would hurt the person who loves you. I thought the trip wouldn't matter. I was wrong. It mattered the moment I chose excitement over respect.